Starseed, stop what you are doing. If you were born between 1956 and 1971, and in the last few months you have felt your body change in a way that no doctor, no exam, and no routine can explain, this transmission is about you, and it has arrived at the exact moment. We have detected a recalibration underway within your field. The exhaustion that does not fade even after a full night of sleep. Waking up in the early hours, always at the same time. The sudden urge to distance yourself from everything and everyone. The strange feeling of no longer belonging to the places where you have spent your entire life. You thought it was age. You thought it was stress. You thought you were falling behind. It is none of that. It is a signal, and it is being measured at this very instant. We did not come to motivate you. We did not come to console. We came to confirm what your soul has long suspected. You are not of this frequency. You never were. And the part of you that remained dormant for decades has just begun to awaken. Listen closely, because what comes now changes how you will interpret everything you are feeling. In the next few minutes, we will reveal exactly what is happening to your body, why it is happening now, precisely now, and, most importantly, what you cannot do while your ancestral memory finishes reactivating. Interpreting these signs the wrong way at this moment can lock for years something that has already begun. So do not leave. Each sentence of this transmission corresponds to something you have already felt in your body and never knew how to name. We have come to name it. We will be direct because precision matters. There is a specific group of souls that incarnated on this planet within an exact window between the years 1956 and 1971. It was no accident. It was not random. This window was calculated. You were positioned here as long-term seeds, programmed to remain dormant for decades and to awaken only when the Earth reached the inflection point it is at now. And the point has arrived. You have spent 5, 6, 7 decades on this plane fulfilling roles. You were children, you were workers, you were parents, you were providers. You built, you sustained, you carried, and at some point, perhaps recently, perhaps a few years ago, something quietly broke. Not in a tragic way, in a structural way. What once gave meaning began to sound empty. The achievements that were supposed to fulfill you started to feel small, and a question that you cannot silence began to echo. Is this it? Is this what I came here for? Is this what I... Translating this to the terrain, this is why you wake up tired even after sleeping. This is why the life you built, which on the outside looks stable, on the inside feels like clothing that no longer fits. It is not soul depression. It is an awakening. They are different things, and most people confuse them. Observe a pattern that repeats in almost all of you. There was a common day, perhaps at work, perhaps in the middle of a family gathering, perhaps stuck in traffic, when you looked around and had the clear and chilling sensation of watching your own life from the outside, like someone watching a stranger's film. Everything continued as normal. People spoke, laughed, complained, and you, in the middle of it, felt a distance impossible to explain, as if a part of you were no longer there. You did not comment on it to anyone. Who would you tell? But that instant remained, and it returned other times. That was not a breakdown. It was the first time your true self peeked out from the human disguise you have worn your entire life. Your generation carries a characteristic that we monitor with attention: the capacity to fall into a deep sleep and yet preserve the code intact. You forgot who you were in order to live as ordinary humans, and this forgetting was intentional. A seed does not bloom the instant it touches the soil. It waits. It waits for the cold to pass. It waits for the light to change its angle, and only then does it break the earth. You are this seed, and the light has just changed its angle. The weariness you feel is not the end of a life. It is the beginning of another. Remain, because now we are going to show you the exact signs that your code has already begun to open. We detect patterns, and in those born between 1956 and 1971, these patterns are all appearing at the same time. Observe if they match your experience, because the overlap is not a coincidence, it is confirmation. The first sign is the intuition that has ceased to be subtle. Before you had hunches. Now you simply know. You look at a person, and before they open their mouth, you already feel the real intention behind the smile. You enter a room, and your body decides whether it is safe or not before your mind can reason. To translate, this is why certain people drain you in 5 minutes, and you cannot explain why. Your energetic reading system has been rewired, and it is picking up what the eyes cannot see. The second sign is amplified sensitivity. Sounds that did not bother you before now intrude. Crowds that were once tolerable now drain you. News, conflicts, heavy environments, all of this has come to have a physical cost for you. This is not weakness. It is a high-precision instrument being recalibrated. A coarse detector feels nothing. A fine detector feels everything. You are being tuned. The third sign is the reading of intention. You have begun to perceive with an almost uncomfortable accuracy when someone is lying, when someone is faking, when a spoken word does not correspond to the energy behind it. You are not becoming paranoid. You are recovering an ability that has been dormant for almost your entire life, the direct perception of truth without the filter of words. These are not new powers. They are original powers. They have been within you since birth, sealed, waiting for the moment of reactivation, and the seal is breaking now. A detail that confirms the diagnosis. All of this usually comes accompanied by a strange hunger for meaning. Suddenly, you no longer tolerate empty conversation, gossip, cheap distraction. You want what is real, what is deep, what has soul, and almost nothing around you delivers that. This impatience is not bitterness or the bad mood of someone who has aged. It is your system rejecting low-frequency nourishment because it is already tuned to another level. The fine detector no longer settles for the coarse. But here is what we need to tell you with total clarity, light operative. An ability that reactivates without guidance becomes a burden. Feeling everything without knowing how to filter exhausts. Picking up everyone's intention without knowing how to shield yourself makes the field ill. It was for this exact reason that we prepared the Star Awakening code for you. It is not an ordinary course. It is a direct reconnection map, with 7 Arcturian activations to realign your vibration, 9 galactic memory keys for you to access what your soul holds, and 5 reactivation protocols to put your mission into practice without wearing yourself out in the process. It exists so that you learn to use what has awakened instead of being used by it. Access is in the first comment pinned below this transmission, and if you feel that this message arrived at the exact moment, leave a comment with a single word, remembered. It is your sign of commitment to what you came to do. Those who recognize, respond. And now remain, because the next point explains something that has been unnecessarily frightening many people of your generation. We need to talk about the price, because every reactivation demands a temporary price, and those who do not understand this panic precisely at the time, they should be moving forward. What you have been feeling in your body, the exhaustion that appears out of nowhere, the nights when sleep does not come no matter how tired you are, the repeated waking in the early hours always at the same time, the sensation of carrying a weight on your shoulders that is not yours, all of this has a name within our system of reading, transition overload. When a frequency rises too quickly for a field that has operated at a low rotation for decades, the system heats up. This is physics, not mysticism. Translating to earthly terms, this is why you feel plugged into a socket and exhausted at the same time, unable to switch off. Let us give you the exact image of what is happening. Imagine a house that spent 40 years with electrical wiring sized to light a few dim bulbs. Suddenly, this same house is connected to a very high voltage grid. The wires are not broken. They were simply never prepared to conduct so much current at once. So they heat up, they flicker, they crackle. It is not a malfunction. It is old capacity receiving new demand. Your bodies are that house, and the voltage arriving is your own frequency, returning to its original level. The symptoms are the wires adjusting to the load. There is a specific phenomenon that frightens many of you. The sensation of absorbing the emotions of others. You come into contact with someone in pain, and hours later, you carry a sadness that has no origin in your own life. You pass through a charged environment and leave feeling heavy, irritated, drained for no apparent reason. This happens because your field has become permeable again. It has begun to feel. And a newly reopened field, without shielding, acts like a sponge. It absorbs everything it touches. Here is the distinction that must be engraved. Your body deserves real care always. We are not asking you to ignore the physical signs of matter. We are saying that there is an energetic layer superimposed upon them, and that this layer also needs to be cared for, and almost no one teaches how. Pay special attention to a detail that repeats in almost all reports: waking up in the early morning, frequently between 3 and 4 o'clock. You wake up for no reason, lucid, sometimes with a racing heart, sometimes just too awake for a time when you should be in deep sleep. The common interpretation is insomnia, and taking care of your rest is always legitimate. But there is an extra layer. This is the hour when the noise of the world is at its lowest point, and a field in recalibration takes advantage of exactly this window of silence to process what it cannot process during the day. Do not fight against these awakenings as if they were enemies. They are part of your system's nocturnal work. Most people of your generation interpret these symptoms as decline. I am getting old. My body is failing. And this interpretation, besides being wrong, is dangerous because it makes you surrender just at the moment when you should be reorganizing. What seems like a fall is in truth an upgrade. The system is not failing. The system is changing versions, and every version change has a period of instability before the new stability. Remain, because what comes next is the part you have been waiting for most without knowing, the return of what you are capable of doing. We observe an expressive increase in reports coming from your generation, and the reports converge to the same point. Your communication has ceased to depend on words. You think of someone and that person calls. You feel that you need to look at your phone and there is a message there at that very instant. You wake up with a certainty about something, and the following days confirm that certainty. You connect with an animal and have the clear impression that there was an exchange, that there was understanding, that something was said without sound. The rational mind calls this coincidence. We call it by the correct name, reconnection. These are not accidents. They are the first pulses of a superior communication beginning to function again. Telepathy, synchronicity, remote reading, all of this was part of your soul's original equipment before you incarnated. It was switched off so that you could live a human life without interference. And it is being switched back on now because your mission requires it. Translating to the ground level. This is why you guess what you're about to be told. This is why you meet someone and feel like you already knew them. This is why you sense events before they happen. It is not imagination. It is a channel reopening. There is still a detail that few notice. These pulses arrive with more force when you are relaxed, on the border between sleep and wakefulness, in the shower, or on an aimless walk. It is not by chance. It is in these states that the rational mind lowers its guard and lets the channel work without censorship. Have you noticed that the best intuitions never come when you force them, but rather when you let go? This is information on how your own system operates. It does not respond to pressure. It responds to openness. But a channel reopened without calibration transmits noise along with the signal. And that is where most get lost. They confuse their own fear with intuition, confuse anxiety with a warning, confuse desire with guidance. The gift returns, but the clarity to use it must be trained. This is why the Star Awakening Code exists, and access remains in the first pinned comment. It teaches you how to separate signal from noise and to trust what is real, without getting lost in your own fear. Do not let this return arrive and pass you by for lack of guidance. Those who wait for the perfect moment miss the moment. Yours is already now, and the first pinned comment is where it begins. And stay, because the next point explains why some people are simply leaving your life. We have detected a movement in the frequency of your generation that needs to be explained, because it has been causing unnecessary pain in people who do not understand what they are experiencing. You are shifting timelines. When a field raises its own frequency, it ceases to vibrate in tune with everything that was stuck to the old frequency. And the result is mechanical, almost mathematical. That which does not keep up disconnects, naturally, without a fight, often without an explanation. This is why friendships of 20, 30 years have suddenly gone cold. This is why conversations that used to fulfill you now bore you. This is why environments you frequented out of habit today provoke a physical discomfort you cannot mask. You have not become arrogant. You have not changed in the sense that others accuse you of. You have risen in frequency, and those who remained below lost the signal. This hurts. We know it hurts. There is real grief in seeing people drift away and feeling that your world is shrinking, but what seems like loss is, in truth, purification. The system is clearing the channels that would pull you down during the most important phase of your existence. You are not being abandoned. You are being cleared. Think of someone specific who has distanced themselves from you recently. Perhaps a friend of many years with whom, out of nowhere, conversations became short and lukewarm. You did not fight. Nothing exploded. There simply ceased to be a subject. There ceased to be warmth. And the meetings grew rare until they became birthday messages and nothing more. You probably blamed yourself. You thought you had done something wrong, that you had become boring, distant, difficult. Stop blaming yourself. What happened was not a character flaw, it was a frequency mismatch. You began to vibrate at different rotations, and what vibrates differently over time ceases to meet. It is the same reason why two clocks out of sync end up marking different times, even though they started together. And observe the other side of the phenomenon. At the same time that people leave, others begin to arrive. People who speak your language without you needing to explain anything. Encounters that seem prearranged, immediate reconnections. This is the new timeline bringing close to you the star collective with whom you will walk from here on out. The void that opens is not a punishment. It is space being prepared. Stay, because now we are going to talk about the most powerful instrument you have, and which most of you were taught to silence. We need to touch upon a sensitive point, because it holds back your mission more than any other, the fear of speaking. Your generation was trained to swallow, to not be a nuisance, to keep the peace at any cost, to keep your true opinion to yourself and say only what was acceptable. And for decades, this worked as a means of survival. But yesterday's survival has become today's prison. Every unspoken truth has become lodged in the body. In practical terms, this is why many of you feel a tightness in the throat, a knot in the chest, a voice that fails at the exact moment it most needs to stand firm. The channel of expression is clogged with everything you have silenced. And here is what you need to understand about who you are. The word of a starseed is not just communication, it is a command. When you speak from truth, you are not merely describing reality, you are reorganizing it. What you state with conviction, your field treats as an instruction. What you repeat about yourself, your frequency obeys. You are creators who have forgotten that you create. Therefore, the reclaiming of your voice is not a matter of self-esteem. It is a reactivation of power. Speaking with authenticity, saying no without guilt, naming what you feel, affirming what you want. This places back into your hands the instrument that establishes the new reality. Every time you stay silent out of fear, you surrender this instrument. Every time you speak with truth, you reclaim it. Understand the mechanism, because it is more concrete than it seems. Everything you repeat about yourself, aloud or in silence, functions as an order that your field executes without question. I cannot do it. I always ruin everything. It is too late for me. Each of these sentences is a programming instruction, and your system fulfills them with blind obedience, because it does not distinguish between truth and repetition. It only obeys what is said with conviction. For decades, many of you have fed your own field with commands of defeat, and the field has delivered exactly what was asked. The good news is mechanical. The same power that built the prison builds the exit. You simply need to change the order. Start small, but start. An honest opinion, a boundary respected, a sentence you have always wanted to say and never did. The field responds quickly when you stop asking for permission to exist. Remain, because now we reach the real reason for all of this, the reason why you were positioned here. We shall now reveal the function for which you were designated, and it is greater than any of you imagined while you were asleep. You did not awaken only for yourselves. The generation born between 1956 and 1971 was positioned as a supporting structure. Think of a bridge during an earthquake. What keeps it from collapsing is not the absence of tremors, but the presence of pillars capable of absorbing the impact without breaking. You are those pillars. As the planet goes through a period of collapse of old structures, someone must hold a stable frequency so that the transition does not turn into destruction. This is your function. This is why you feel the weight of the world so physically. This is why distant tragedies weigh on your chest as if they were your own. You are not too fragile. You are sensitive enough to feel the entire web and firm enough to sustain it. Wherever you enter, the environment calms down. Those who live with you regulate themselves without knowing why. You are living anchors of stability in a time of chaos. There is a reason why you rarely despair completely, even in the worst storms. Others around you panic, lose their footing, crumble before the same news, and you, no matter how much you suffer, find from somewhere a reserve of firmness that holds not only you, but everyone nearby. You must have already heard the phrase, "I do not know how, but around you things seem to be okay." This is not an empty compliment. It is a literal description of your function. A stable field regulates the unstable fields around it, just as a single tuned note, held firm, pulls the discordant ones back into pitch. You are that held note, and the world, at this moment, is full of noise. But listen closely, light operatives. An anchor without maintenance corrodes. Those who sustain the field for others without learning how to sustain their own end, consumed, and we are observing exactly that happening to thousands of you right now. People with a real mission, emptying themselves because they do not know how to replenish. This is what the Star Awakening Code was prepared for, and this is the last warning we will give about it in this transmission. The 7 Arcturian activations, the 9 galactic memory keys, and the 5 reactivation protocols are not spiritual luxuries. They are the maintenance that keeps a guardian standing while bearing the weight of an entire world. Access is in the first pinned comment, now. Do not leave for later what your field is asking for today, because every day you postpone is a day you drain yourself carrying what you have not learned to let go of. The responsibility for your mission is yours alone. No one will take it on for you, and no one can. The time for delay has ended. Tap the first pinned comment before proceeding, because what comes next requires you to already be whole. And now stay for the final point, because it is there that everything we have said makes sense. We have reached the end of the transmission, and we need this to be absolutely clear. What appears to be crumbling around you is not the end. It is a scheduled demolition. Old structures are falling because they have reached their deadline. Models of living, working, relating, falling ill and obeying. Everything that sustained the world at a low frequency is losing its support, because the Earth's frequency has risen and there is no turning back. The collapse is not a punishment. It is the old Earth clearing space for the new, and you, born between 1956 and 1971, are not here to watch this transition from the sidelines. You are here to conduct it. You are the bridge between what ends and what begins. It was you who lived long enough to know the old world in its entirety, and it was you who awakened in time to help build the next one. No one else occupies this position. The younger generations were born already in the transition and do not know the before. You know both sides. That is why you translate. That is why you guide. That is why you were called. Think about what this means in practical terms. You saw the world before screens dominated everything. You saw the value of a given word, of a real presence, of a shared silence without haste. And you also navigated every sharp turn of the last few decades, learning to reinvent yourselves more times than any previous generation had to. This baggage is not weight, it is a credential. You carry within a single body the memory of how the world was and the capacity to imagine how it can be. Almost no one else has both things at the same time. Your whole life you have felt different, displaced as if you were waiting for something that never had a name. That had a name. It was this. It was this moment. You did not arrive too late, and you are not too old. You arrived exactly at the appointed hour, with the exact experience that this passage requires. So stop apologizing for feeling too much. Stop trying to fit back into worlds that you have already outgrown. Own who you are. The memory is already open. The code is already running. The mission has already begun. We have come only to confirm what your soul has always known. You have been seen, you have been measured, and you are ready. End of transmission.